He returned from the war long before anyone realized the war would keep living inside him. The world around him looked the same. Quiet streets, familiar buildings, ordinary people rushing somewhere. Yet for him, everything felt slightly distorted, as if life had been painted with darker, heavier colors. Nights were no longer restful. Mornings felt hollow. He woke up too early, listening for sounds that no longer existed. The silence of civilian life was supposed to bring peace, but instead it pressed on him like a weight. A man who comes back from war does not return as the same person who left. Something inside him reshapes, slowly, painfully, silently. What others call normal life feels like a foreign country. People speak softly, worry about small things, and complain about routines. He tries to blend in, to smile, to nod at the right moments. But deep inside, he carries the echo of nights where survival depended on instinct, awareness, and readiness. Comparing himself to an ordinary man, he notices the difference. An ordinary man wakes up to a peaceful morning. A man who returned from war wakes up checking the world for danger that no longer exists. He often walks through the city as if each street hides a memory. A passing sound can trigger confusion. He knows it's harmless, yet parts of his mind refuse to believe it. War trains the brain to react before thinking. Civilian life expects the opposite, and this conflict creates an invisible tension. He feels misunderstood, not because people are unkind, but because they cannot imagine what reshaped his soul. How could they know the exhaustion of being strong for too long? Psychologists describe this adjustment period as a transition gap, a psychological space between who he used to be and who he must become now. According to Dr. Jonathan Shea, a psychiatrist famous for studying war trauma, the return from war is not a simple reversal of departure. Coming home is a second battle. These words reflect his reality. The battlefield outside ended, but the battlefield inside continues, quiet and unseen by others. One of the most painful consequences is emotional numbness. He wants to feel joy, but emotions come slow, muted. He wants to reconnect with people he loves, but closeness feels dangerous, almost foreign. It's not that he doesn't care. He cares too deeply, so deeply that protecting others became instinct. Now, in peaceful life, this instinct turns into withdrawal. He sits at family dinners, but feels like a visitor. He listens to conversations, yet remains somewhere else, mentally halfway between past and present. There are moments when he wishes he could explain what is happening inside, but words fail. How to describe the constant tension, the strange mix of gratitude for being alive and guilt for coming back? How to tell others that sometimes happiness hurts because it contrasts too sharply with everything he's seen? In the film The Hurt Locker, one veteran says, "For some of us, war is the only thing that makes sense." He does not fully agree, yet he understands the feeling. Civilian life lacks the clarity that war forces upon you. A friend once asked him what he missed from the battlefield. He stayed silent, ashamed of the answer forming in his mind. It wasn't violence. It wasn't adrenaline. It was brotherhood. Pure, unquestionable trust. In ordinary life, relationships feel softer, uncertain, sometimes superficial. On the battlefield, loyalty is sharp and immediate. You protect each other or you perish. Losing that sense of unity creates loneliness, even in crowded places. Yet despite all difficulties, recovery is possible. Psychologists suggest several key steps. 1. Routine. Predictable structure helps rewire the nervous system. 2. Connection. Gentle, patient communication with trusted people. 3. Purpose. Finding new meaning outside the military role. 4. Gradual exposure. Slowly adapting to peaceful environments. 5. Professional support. Therapy is not weakness, it is rebuilding. These steps do not erase the past, but they soften its echo. The man must learn to forgive himself for struggling. Healing is not a straight path. It is a maze. But as Viktor Frankl, Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, once wrote, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." This quote becomes a quiet reminder that inner strength is not about suppressing pain, but understanding it, transforming it, reshaping it into something survivable. As he moves through this darkness, a new realization emerges. What war tried to break in him can become the foundation of his strength. His discipline, resilience, awareness, and depth, these qualities can rebuild his new life. Dark psychology teaches that people change fastest when they confront discomfort instead of avoiding it. And he has already faced the worst. Now, with guidance, he can learn to use his past not as a prison, but as fuel. The world may not fully understand him, but he can still shape his future. He begins to understand that healing doesn't mean forgetting. Healing means learning to live with memories without allowing them to control every moment of his present. Some days are harder. A sudden sound, a crowded space, an unexpected touch can flood him with tension he cannot explain. But other days, small victories appear, like a peaceful morning walk or a moment of genuine laughter. These fragments of normal life slowly rebuild his connection with the world. Ordinary men take such moments for granted. A man who returned from war counts each one like a precious achievement. People often expect him to be grateful for being home. Yet, gratitude is complicated. Yes, he is thankful to be alive, but survival came with invisible scars. He sometimes feels disconnected from those who never faced life and death choices. They speak of stress at work, minor frustrations, and daily routines. He listens politely, but feels like someone from another world. As military author Tim O'Brien once wrote, "A true war story is never about war. It's about the human heart." And his heart now carries layers of silence no one sees. At night, when the city sleeps, he finds himself thinking of the men who didn't come back. He remembers their faces, their voices, their last moments together. Survivor's guilt is a silent shadow that follows him everywhere. He wonders why he made it home while others did not. Psychologists explain that this emotional struggle is common for soldiers. The mind creates a false responsibility, as if one could have changed fate. Understanding this intellectually doesn't make the feelings disappear, but it helps him recognize that guilt is part of the journey, not a permanent state. Ordinary men fear failure. A man returning from war fears losing control of his mind. Emotions he once pushed aside now return like waves. Anger, sadness, confusion, they rise unexpectedly. he learned to stay composed under pressure. But civilian life brings a different type of pressure: slow, constant, unpredictable. Unlike the battlefield, danger here is invisible, forming inside thoughts rather than in the environment. This psychological shift makes adaptation harder. Yet, with patience, he starts learning that vulnerability is not weakness, but a bridge that reconnects him with the world. Examples from life often illustrate this reality. One veteran described how he couldn't sit with his back to the door in a cafe for almost a year after returning home. Another said he avoided celebrations because loud music reminded him of chaotic nights he wished to forget. These reactions may seem strange to others, but they are simply the mind trying to protect itself. With time and with the support of loved ones, each of these men found ways to feel safe again. Their stories show that recovery is slow but absolutely possible. One helpful step for many warriors is communication, not aggressive venting, true communication. When he speaks with people who genuinely listen, the pressure inside decreases. Sometimes the first conversation feels impossible. Pride and habit keep him silent. But once words begin to flow, the mind starts untangling itself. A psychologist once said, "Trauma hides in silence. Breaking that silence becomes a turning point. It doesn't erase memories, but it stops them from growing into monsters in the dark." His return to ordinary life is filled with contradictions. He wants stability but fears becoming too comfortable. He wants to relax, yet his alertness never fully shuts off. He wants to forget the war, yet memories return uninvited. Adaptation requires time, self-compassion, and support from the environment. Loved ones must understand that pushing him to be normal again will only create pressure. Instead, small acts of patience, calm conversations, predictable routines, quiet company can help him feel grounded again. To former soldiers searching for guidance, one message matters most: do not isolate yourself. Isolation strengthens fear, amplifies memories, and weakens the mind. Instead, connecting with trusted people and engaging in meaningful activities creates a psychological anchor. Whether it is sport, work, volunteering, or learning something new, structured engagement rewires the brain. Slowly, he will notice how old reflexes soften and new patterns form. The mind learns, adapts, and rebuilds even after the hardest experiences. In the film American Sniper, the main character struggles to reconnect with peaceful life. He hears laughter, yet feels detached. He smiles, yet feels hollow. This conflict inside him mirrors what many returning soldiers experience. But the film also shows a path forward, helping others. When the protagonist begins supporting injured veterans, he rediscovers a sense of purpose. This principle works in real life too. Helping others transforms pain into meaning. Purpose becomes stronger than fear. Dark psychology tells us that the human mind changes fastest when it is pushed into discomfort. A man who survived war has already passed through the deepest darkness. Now, he can use that same resilience to conquer peaceful life. He can use discipline to create new habits, awareness to avoid destructive paths, and courage to face emotional truth. Ordinary men fear change, but a man who returned from war has already changed in ways others cannot comprehend. With the right mindset, he can rebuild himself stronger than before, controlled, focused, unbreakable. He begins to see that the strength he built during the war does not disappear. It transforms. The same discipline that kept him alive can now help him structure his new life. The same alertness that once protected him can now help him notice small details, control situations, and build stability. But to reach this point, he must shift his mindset. Instead of fighting the world, he must learn to cooperate with it. The battlefield taught him to survive. Peaceful life must teach him to live. Ordinary men rarely understand how intensely veterans experience emotions. What seems like a simple conversation to someone else might feel overwhelming to him. What seems like a small problem may trigger an unexpected reaction. But these emotional waves do not mean he is broken. They mean he spent too long in a place where emotions had to be silent. Now they are returning, like water filling an empty vessel. With time and support, he will learn to manage them again, not by suppressing, but by understanding. Another challenge appears in relationships. Family and friends often expect him to be the same person he was before the war. But he cannot pretend. War changes priorities, alters values, shifts inner landscapes. He might struggle with small talk, avoid crowded places, or hesitate to show affection. None of this means he loves less. Often, it means he feels too deeply. Loved ones must know that patience is a gift. Silence does not mean rejection. It means processing. Distance does not mean coldness. It means exhaustion. One real story tells of a man who returned home and felt unable to sleep in a soft bed for weeks. He slept on the floor next to the bed because the unfamiliar comfort made him restless. Another man kept all windows slightly open, needing airflow to calm down. These behaviors confuse those who never walked through war, but for him, they are normal reactions. Over time, with gentle guidance, both men adapted. Their minds slowly accepted peace. This transformation is possible for anyone willing to take small steps. Science helps explain these reactions. Neurologists state that prolonged stress changes the brain's patterns of alertness. The amygdala becomes more active. The prefrontal cortex becomes more cautious. This does not mean the veteran is damaged. It means his brain optimized itself for threat detection. Now, during recovery, the brain needs to relearn peace. It is similar to teaching a warrior how to walk again on soft ground after marching on broken stones. It takes time, repetition, and self-compassion. A quote from military historian John Keegan captures this inner shift. Soldiers do not return from war. They carry it inside them, and it shapes the man they must become. He reads these words one day and feels understood. Not judged, not analyzed, understood. And understanding is the beginning of healing. Once he accepts that war left marks on him, he can stop pretending to be untouched. Acceptance is not surrender. Acceptance is strategy. It is the first real step toward rebuilding identity. As he progresses, he begins using techniques recommended by therapists. Controlled breathing to reduce tension, grounding practices to steady his mind, quiet routines that bring predictability. He learns to recognize emotional triggers and separate the past from the present. At first, these techniques feel awkward, even unnecessary, but gradually they work. He notices how his body relaxes faster, how his thoughts feel less chaotic, how he can sit in a room without scanning every corner. These small victories accumulate, becoming pillars of recovery. Helping such a man requires a special kind of patience. Others must avoid forcing conversations, avoid asking invasive questions, avoid expecting quick transformation. Instead, support should be steady, consistent presence, calm invitations, open communication. A simple sentence like, "I'm here if you need me," can mean more to him than long emotional speeches. He needs to know he is not a burden, not a problem, not a broken figure. He needs to feel safe, not just physically, but emotionally. But recovery is not only external, it must come from inside. He must realize that strength does not belong only to the battlefield. Strength exists in choosing to wake up each morning, in choosing to keep going, in choosing to rebuild. When darkness pulls him back, he must remember the same courage that carried him through war can carry him through healing. Dark psychology teaches that the mind becomes powerful when it masters its own fears. And he has already looked fear in the eyes. Now comes the second transformation, the rise. He begins to understand that he can shape his life intentionally. He can use discipline to rebuild habits, mental clarity to avoid destructive patterns, and emotional depth to create authentic relationships. He is no longer just a man who survived war. He is a man who can dominate peace. Ordinary men chase comfort. He knows how to endure storms. Ordinary men fear change. He has already changed in ways they cannot imagine. His future belongs not to the past, but to the strength he chooses today. He starts observing ordinary men with a new perspective. They hurry through life, annoyed by small inconveniences, unaware of how fragile everything truly is. They complain about routine, yet he longs for it. They fear discomfort, yet he survived realities they could not imagine. This comparison doesn't make him feel superior. It makes him quieter, more thoughtful. He knows that life can change in a single moment, and this awareness becomes both a burden and a source of strength. Over time, he learns to turn this awareness into wisdom rather than fear. In peaceful life, he discovers one unexpected difficulty: slowness. War taught him to act instantly, think fast, make decisions without hesitation. Now, he must adjust to a world where reaction is not survival, where time moves differently. Conversations are slower, problems are smaller, decisions are softer. This slowness frustrates him at first. But as he adapts, he realizes that slowness is not weakness. Slowness is space for reflection, space to breathe, space to rebuild his identity piece by piece. There are moments of conflict inside him. Part of him wants to detach from the past completely, to lock it behind an invisible door. Another part refuses to let go, afraid that letting go means betraying those who didn't return. This emotional contradiction is common among returning soldiers. Psychologists explain that loyalty does not disappear after war. It transforms into memory. Over time, he learns that honoring the past does not mean living inside it. Memory can remain alive without consuming his present. Books often help him understand his journey better. In one chapter from a memoir written by a former officer, he comes across a line: "The battlefield stays silent only when you learn to silence it inside yourself." These words hit him deeply. They remind him that healing is an internal negotiation, not an external one. The world won't erase his memories, but he can learn to coexist with them, to let them take their place without overwhelming his identity. Some days, he struggles with anger, not explosive, but quiet, controlled, difficult to express. It appears when he feels misunderstood, when people speak casually about things that once meant life or death. This anger is not directed at anyone. It is a residue of living under extreme pressure. Over time, he learns to manage it through grounding techniques, physical activity, and honest conversations. Anger becomes not an enemy, but a signal, a reminder of how much he endured and how much strength remains inside him. He begins realizing that adaptation is not only psychological, but also physical. His body remembers long periods of stress. Tight shoulders, shallow breathing, fast reflexes. His nervous system remains alert even when everything is safe. Slowly, through routine, exercise, rest, and controlled relaxation, his body starts to relax. The mind follows the body, and each moment of calm becomes a small victory. Ordinary men relax without thinking. He relaxes intentionally, purposefully, and with deep gratitude. Relationships shift as well. People who once felt distant begin to matter again. He learns to communicate more openly, even when it feels unnatural. He tells someone close to him, "I'm trying. I don't always know how to explain things, but I'm trying." This honesty breaks the old walls he built for survival. Instead of pretending to be invulnerable, he begins letting others see his humanity. And surprisingly, this vulnerability brings not weakness, but connection. He also discovers something important. Helping others speeds up his own healing. When he talks to other veterans, he sees himself reflected in their stories. He realizes he is not alone. Counseling, volunteering, supporting others, all these actions give him purpose. Purpose is not a luxury for him. It is a necessity. Without it, the mind drifts back into old shadows. With it, he feels grounded, focused, alive. Purpose becomes the bridge between his past and his future. Dark psychology explains that people gain power when they learn to use their inner shadows rather than suppress them. His experiences, his fears, his memories, these are not weaknesses, but sources of intense mental strength. He begins to understand that he knows himself better than most people ever will. He faced situations that revealed his real nature: disciplined, loyal, resilient. Now he can use these traits to build the life he chooses. He transforms pain into strategy, memories into awareness, and fear into direction. At this stage, he realizes something fundamental. The war shaped him, but it does not own him. He is not defined by the darkness he walked through, but by the light he chooses to build afterward. He is stronger, sharper, and more self-aware than before. Ordinary men fear obstacles. He sees them as challenges he can overcome. He begins creating a new identity, not the soldier he once was, not the confused man who first returned, but a focused, disciplined, rebuilt version of himself, a man who can rise again. He starts exploring the idea of identity. Before the war, he was simply a man, with plans, routines, dreams, maybe fears. During the war, he became a soldier, focused, disciplined, shaped by necessity rather than choice. After returning, he finds himself in a third identity, one that he never expected. A survivor, learning how to live again. This transition is complex. It demands reflection, honesty, and time. But as he works through it, he begins understanding that identity is not fixed. It evolves, and he has the power to guide its evolution. In everyday life, he practices being present. He notices small moments he once overlooked. The way morning light touches the window, the sound of quiet conversation in a cafe, the warmth of human company. These small observations slowly anchor him in the present. Mindfulness becomes not a trend, but a survival tool. He realizes that by grounding himself in the moment, he reduces the influence of past memories. Ordinary men see moments and forget them. He sees moments and learns from them. His biggest inner struggle often comes from comparing his past self to who he is now. He wonders, would the man I was before the war even recognize me? This question haunts him. But over time, he learns a truth that many veterans eventually accept. Transformation is not betrayal. The war changed him, but growth is still possible. He can redefine his principles, strengthen his character, and build a version of himself that honors both who he was and who he wants to become. A story he once heard from an older veteran stays with him. The hardest part isn't surviving the battlefield. The hardest part is surviving the peace afterward. The man explained that peace exposes everything that war suppresses: emotions, doubts, memories. But he also said something else. Peace gives you a chance to rebuild the parts of you that war couldn't destroy. These words give him hope. They remind him that healing is not about becoming the same as before. It is about becoming whole again in a new way. Psychologists often emphasize the importance of routine for veterans. He follows this advice. He wakes up at the same time, organizes his day, sets achievable tasks. Routine becomes a calming structure, replacing the unpredictable rhythm of war with a predictable frame. It gives him a sense of control, and control brings confidence. Little by little, he begins trusting himself again. Not the soldier he was, but the man he is becoming. But recovery is not linear. Some days he wakes with clarity, other days with heaviness. Some days he feels strong, others lost. This fluctuation is normal, though difficult to accept. He learns that healing is like climbing a mountain. Progress is slow, setbacks happen, but each step counts. He starts tracking improvements, longer moments of calm, better sleep, fewer intrusive thoughts. These small indicators show him that progress may be slow, but it is real. He continues reading and learning about psychology. One scientific insight resonates with him deeply. The human brain can rewire itself after trauma. Neuroplasticity, this word becomes a source of comfort. It means he's not trapped. It means change is biologically possible. His brain, shaped by stress, can reshape itself through patience, support, and conscious actions. Knowing this gives him power. Knowledge becomes a weapon, this time not against enemies, but against fear. Films also offer him unexpected guidance. A scene from The Hurt Locker lingers in his memory. The protagonist stands in a supermarket aisle, overwhelmed by the simplicity of everyday choices. The world feels foreign, too calm, too ordinary. He relates deeply to this moment. But the film also shows that adaptation, though painful, is possible. By watching the journeys of fictional soldiers, he finds reflections of his own struggle. These reflections remind him that his experiences are shared, not isolated. Dark psychology suggests that true strength emerges when a person confronts and masters his own shadows. He begins to use this concept not as a philosophy, but as a tool. Instead of fearing his memories, he studies them. Instead of running from emotions, he acknowledges them. Instead of suppressing fear, he learns to understand it. By facing his inner darkness directly, he becomes mentally sharper, emotionally stronger, and more self-aware than before. His shadows no longer control him. They guide him. At this point, he realizes that he has already done something extraordinary. He returned, he endured, he stayed alive, and he continues to fight the silent battles inside. This makes him more resilient than most people around him. He starts seeing his journey not as a burden, but as a foundation. He has the discipline to rebuild his life, the awareness to avoid destructive paths, and the courage to start over. He's no longer the man who walked into war. He's the man who walked out and stood back up, and that makes him powerful. He begins redefining what strength means. In war, strength was the ability to endure, to push through exhaustion, to stay alert under pressure. In peaceful life, strength becomes something different. The courage to slow down, to rest, to open up, to admit vulnerability without feeling weak. This new strength is quieter but deeper. It demands emotional honesty and patience with himself. And slowly, he starts seeing that he is capable of both kinds of strength, the external and the internal. Ordinary men often avoid their emotions, hiding behind routine or distraction. But he cannot do that, not anymore. His emotions are too intense, too real, too honest. Instead of ignoring them, he learns to observe them. Psychologists call this emotional literacy, the ability to name and understand feelings. He begins recognizing sadness, frustration, stress, even hope. This skill becomes essential. It helps him navigate conversations, avoid conflicts, and understand his needs. What others avoid, he faces directly, and that makes him wiser. Social reintegration remains one of the hardest parts. Crowded places still feel overwhelming. Sudden noises still cause discomfort. People sometimes stare, not understanding why he prefers the seat facing the door, or why he scans rooms automatically. These habits are not flaws. they are traces of survival. Over time, with supportive people and familiarity, the world becomes less threatening. He learns that his instincts protected him once, but now he can choose when to rely on them and when to let them rest. One day, he speaks with a therapist who tells him something that stays with him. You don't need to erase your past to build your future. You just need to learn how to carry it differently. This message resonates on a deep level. He begins shifting his mindset. Instead of trying to forget everything, he focuses on changing his relationship with his memories. They become part of his story, not chains that hold him down, but lessons that strengthen his spirit. He also finds comfort in creative expression. Writing, drawing, or even simple journaling helps him process experiences he cannot put into spoken words. These forms of expression become safe outlets, gentle tools that allow him to explore complex emotions. Creativity becomes therapy. His writing reminds him that he is more than what happened to him. He is someone capable of transforming pain into meaning. Ordinary people create for fun. He creates for survival and self-understanding. Another important step is rebuilding trust. Trust in himself, trust in others, trust in the world. After long exposure to danger, trusting anything feels unnatural. But trust grows slowly through consistent experiences, reliable people, predictable routines, supportive interactions. One day, he realizes he is laughing again. Not politely, but genuinely. It surprises him, and this small moment signals something powerful: a return of emotional freedom. Trust grows not in leaps, but in quiet moments just like this. With time, he begins exploring new goals. The future no longer feels like an abstract concept. It becomes something he can shape. Some veterans pursue education. Others join volunteer organizations. Some start businesses. He considers which path would give him meaning. The war sharpened his ability to think strategically. Now he uses that skill to design a life that aligns with his values. Planning becomes not a burden, but a form of empowerment. Dark psychology teaches that humans gain real inner power when they understand both their light and their shadow. He applies this idea carefully and responsibly. His shadow, his memories, his fears, his intensity, becomes a source of mental strength. He no longer tries to suppress it. Instead, he integrates it into his personality. This integration gives him presence. He becomes grounded, calm, controlled. People around him notice his quiet confidence. They sense depth in him, even if they don't know why. He begins seeing that ordinary men often fear challenges, while he has lived through experiences far more difficult than anything everyday life can throw at him. This doesn't make him arrogant, it makes him resilient. The difficulties of normal life feel manageable. Bureaucracy, small conflicts, career choices, social expectations, all these things that overwhelm others seem less intimidating to him. He has already faced far greater storms. Now he uses his past not as an anchor, but as a shield. A transformation takes place. He realizes he is no longer simply recovering. He is evolving. He is building a new version of himself, disciplined, emotionally aware, mentally sharp, and unbreakably resilient. His past taught him pain, but it also taught him courage. His present teaches him patience, and his future will reward him for both. He understands now that he is not a victim of circumstances. He's a strategist, a survivor, a builder of his own life. His comeback is only beginning.